It's a hot one. I was gonna film outside, but it's maybe too hot today. That's fine. I've been thinking about two things recently, specifically related to design work that I'm doing right now. One of those is related to like feeling intimidated to match a genre or a creator who's inspired you to make the game that you're making. Like to somehow meet up to some kind of standard of their genius or vision. And the second one has to do with time, like the amount of time it takes to finish something or go through the process of creating a game from the beginning to the end. So the first one's coming up a lot in my mind because of my David Lynch game. David Lynch is one of my heroes. He means a lot to me. The work that he's done has inspired me a whole lot. And I'm making a game kind of almost as an homage to how he's inspired my creativity. No big deal. There's like, it's kind of intimidating. Like I kind of feel like, can I match up to this vision in my head of what like a David Lynch thing is, because because I admire him and because I admire his work, I kind of put it on this level that's almost like unattainable. It is basically the genius. He's human. Anyone can make good things, but it feels intimidating to try and create something like a master creates something. And I know that that's part of the artistic process. Like one of the first things I learned in art school, actually not even art school, just like making art when I was younger, was to copy masters, because when you do, you can learn from them. And the only way to learn from them isn't by looking at the thing they did or reading about the thing they did, but actually doing the thing that they did. And like, I think one of the first pieces that really sunk in with me was Guernica, which, is a Picasso piece about war. And until I copied that piece, I don't think I really understood the value of abstract art. I was kind of like, this is bullshit. I don't get it. I don't like the way it looks. Too many angles, blah, blah, blah. And then I copied it and I was like, wow, this is actually really hard. I actually really love a lot of these angles. These colors are cool. I didn't understand how to create that texture before, and now I do. So that's a really valuable lesson, like copying masters in any kind of art or design work. I think that is also true in game design. Because you can learn to, when you copy, you can learn to apply those things to your own design. And, as creators, you're constantly basically just taking things from your own mind and dreams and pairing them up with techniques that people have used, and like taking a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and a little bit from there, and like recombining them into something new. And that's most art, sometimes when that happens, new things emerge, and that's awesome. But a lot of it is repetition, and that's fine. So yeah, it was kind of a mind fuck, like working on this David Lynch game. I didn't realize it was going to be when I started making it. I just thought, I loved Twin Peaks: The Return. I really want to do something that's inspired by that. And it sent me to an awesome place, but I had to struggle with, I guess, the fear of, is this going to be good enough? Are people who also like David Lynch going to look at this and think that it is representative? Is it going to be on the same level, like the same critical level that David Lynch's work is, type of thing? And I basically had to talk myself down from that. Like, just because I'm working on something that's like a genre based on one of my heroes doesn't mean that it has to be perfect, doesn't mean that it has to be like the end all be all. And it doesn't mean that anyone else has to even like the David Lynch thing that it's doing, like they might put their own Lynchian perspectives or desires for a type of story onto the thing that I'm making. And that's actually all totally fine. So I think that was a challenge I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting to be worried about those things when creating this LARP. The second thing is time. Kind of like the amount of time you have to create something before the idea becomes like old or stale. Like I've been struggling with sync recently because I started it 2 years ago, and a lot of the things that are in it that I was writing about 2 years ago have kind of like shifted in my mind and in the cultural landscape. And what I wanted it to be then is different from what I want it to be now. So that means that basically it's a different game now. Like, because I kind of took so long to do it. Like, I don't know if that's good or bad. Like, some of me is like, you should just finish the game that it was 2 years ago and make it that, and don't worry about it, just let it go. And the other part of me is like, no, you need to make it these things, and you need to add more emo-ness and feelings, and it doesn't just have to be about actions and thoughts, and you know, because I think that emo-ness is like something that's on my mind with game design right now, and is also popular in the game design world, like making things full of feelings. And I really like that stuff. And so, and you know, I'm also thinking of, you know, like how race issues have shifted from even 2 years ago, different terminology that we're using in queer culture, all these things that are pretty relevant to a cultural focused cyberpunk game with like relationships. So part of me is just like kicking myself for not finishing it earlier, even though, I mean, I had great reasons. I was going through a lot of life turmoil and, you know, discovering that I had fibromyalgia. So obviously sometimes you got to put stuff down and pick it up again. But it does, that time shift does change the essence of the thing that I'm making. Like, it has transformed it from one thing to another because I've changed. So yeah, I never worked on something for that long before, and that's something I'm coming to realize. Like, there's a time limit on these things. Like, they need to be finished probably within a year. That's probably it. That's probably how much time I have for a larger project. And the smaller projects I have at Patreon seem to be moving at a pace that is like more bespoke and contained, and as opposed to like a larger thing that can take a longer amount of time. So yeah, I'm interested in how like other designers deal with that length of time. I'm curious about your thoughts on those two topics. Have you ever designed something that kind of intimidated you because of like a master that you were mimicking? Or have you designed something for way too long and let it go on, and like what happened? What happened there? Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you like these videos, support my Patreon. I've got a few links down below you can take a look at that are links to my Patreon, links to games I've written, and links to games that have inspired me. So take a look at those, and I'll see you next vid.